My recommendation would be with an 8-week rotation that and 4 colors, then essentially you'll need to price for 2 weeks at each color to work through the
Mhm.
rotation, right? So that's fine. And then what you do over the next 6 weeks with that product is really the piece we need to decide here, right? And typically, stores will discount on a weekly basis. You don't doesn't actually have to. Like you can do something like the very last day of the sale, have it discounted at 90% or $1 or something like that. And stores will sometimes do an extreme discount like that on the last day of a rotation just to help clear product out, to where customers will kind of like remove that product from the floor for them because it's such an extreme discount. So that's not a bad idea either. But in general, it would look something like this, right? So we price for 2 weeks, and then we have at least one more week at full price so that we're not discounting product like we talked about earlier. We're not discounting product one day after it was labeled potentially. So if we price whatever we labeled on Saturday of week 329, we don't want to be discounted the next Monday. So we'd have at least one more week at full price. It's not uncommon to run 2 more weeks at full price before you start discounting. So, but at least I would recommend at minimum one more week. And then that leaves us with essentially 5 more weeks to decide what we want to do with the price. So we could do the 20, 40, 60, like you guys had kind of been talking about. So we could do it something like this, right? Where it's 2 weeks pricing, 1 week full, 1 week at 20, 2 at 40, 2 at 60.
Okay.
I would recommend ending at a higher discount. It's pretty typical that I'll see stores discount up to 75% off per week. And I guess my primary thought process behind that is that if this product, after the end of the rotation, if you're going to have to throw it away or sell it by the pound, sell it to scrap, metal recycling, and however you guys sort out your product, in the end, you'll probably be better off giving it away for even 75, 80, 90% off than having to like pay disposal fees or that sort of thing. If you can get some recycling money for it, then that's something to be taken into consideration. But my thought would be it's probably better to go a little bit steeper than 60 in the end, or a lot steeper, but at least a little bit steeper than 60 on the end with a discount, because you're still probably going to be better off getting 25% of the original price than figuring out what to do with it at the end of the sale. So my thought would be to probably do something closer to what we're looking at on screen here for the red. But there's a lot of flexibility in that. So
Okay. So as of right now, that's not what we've been teaching our customers, and I really wish we would have had this meeting before we did all the marketing materials, but hindsight 2020. So could we look at, so we have to work with 5 weeks in order to make this play out correctly, right?
Or I think 8 weeks. Aren't you currently pricing 2 weeks?
We're pricing every 2 weeks, yes.
So I think it's a total of 8 weeks we're looking at then. 2 weeks at each color, 4 colors.
Okay. So then we have 3 full weeks and then five weeks where we have to be. So I'm almost wondering if we should do, Brandon, I guess you have a better idea than I do about other stores. Like, we price our stuff on the cheaper end to begin with, so I don't see us having a lot of stuff 160 hits anyways. So I'm almost wondering if we should do 220, 140, 160. How does weekly discounts work?
Yeah, so a weekly discount is definitely typical among like clothing thrift stores where they'll cycle through their clothes completely in 5 or 6 weeks. And often like if we did like a 5-week, 5-color rotation, um, this might be pretty typical here where you run like 2 weeks at full price or price for product for 1 week, right? And then you rotating the color you're pricing with every week. So you price 1 week, run 2 more weeks at full price, then do 25, 50, and 75% off.
Okay, does this
That's
model only work with 5 colors?
It doesn't. No, you can do this with 6 colors. You could technically do it with 7 colors if you wanted to.
Does it work with 4?
It does if you, but then you're moving. If you price for only 1 week and you only have 4 colors, then you have to fully cycle your product in 4 weeks in order to have that color be available again to start pricing with. So then you're moving your product in 4 weeks, and that's quicker than most thrift stores and definitely quicker than most restores work.
Okay.
So like our clothing thrift customers, they're maybe doing like 5 weeks. Restores are typically, 5 weeks minimum to more like looking at rotating things on an 8-week or 12-week type cycle like you guys are doing. So 4 colors, 8 weeks, I think I wouldn't necessarily recommend for a restore that you guys move product more quickly. What I would really play around with is these discount percentages and how quickly you maybe discount.
Okay.
So if, like you mentioned, if you're currently pricing on the low end, I don't know how your customers will take to this. They might not be happy with it, but with this type of pricing structure, we have reporting that will show you what percentage of your product by category and by price point, what of the product it sells, what sells at full price or at each one of your discount levels, right?
Okay.
So you'll be able to monitor like, okay, appliances priced at $100 of the it sells. It doesn't necessarily take into the product that never sold and you removed from your floor, but of that product that sold, what percentage of those $100 appliances were sold at full price, 20, 40, 60, 75? How about $200 appliances? How about $500 appliances? Right? You do the same thing for every department, every price point in your store. So with that, stores will typically, taking that data, they would have like a goal of what percentage of their product they want to sell within those full price weeks in order to maybe represent, or for them, what feels like a healthy sell through at full price, giving them confidence that they're pricing at essentially what their customers are willing to pay without overpricing where they're like offending their customers, I think is the terminology I've used. So essentially customers are voting with their wallet as to when it reaches the right price, right? So, and that goal is typically pretty high, like 75% of the product or 85% of the product they want to sell at full price before it ever gets discounted even once. But then and so then with that reporting, you can monitor like, okay, well, what if only 60% of your $100 appliances that sell at full price? Well, then, yeah, you're probably overpricing to begin with on at least some of them, not necessarily all of them, but some of them, and you can start pricing lower. But if you guys are pricing on the lower end already, and you find that like 90% of your product sells at full price, then my recommendation to maximize revenue but still have product move would be to actually increase the pricing of at least a percentage of that product, maybe 10% of that product. You increase the pricing to your next price point to where you start reaching close to that 75 to 85% selling at full price. So with this type of discounting, like you'll be able to run that reporting and update or monitor and kind of move your pricing as customer demographics change and donations and seasonality and stuff like that.
Okay. So our old pricing structure, we like had like a code date on it so we could see if it was on the floor for more than a week, and then theoretically where we were going and then discounting the price. It wasn't a mathematical equation. It was what we felt, but I would imagine that it was somewhere between 15 and 20%. And we would do this weekly. So Corbin, my gut tells me 2 weeks at 20, 2 weeks at 40, 1 week at 60 for right now.
If you price on, like, let's say you price Saturday, the end of the second week, then it's going to have 1 week left at full price. If you priced Monday of the first week, then it will have run 3 weeks. So you'll have 1 to 3 weeks at full price. For a restore, that's not at all uncommon to run, even a whole month at full price before it hits the first discount. So I wouldn't feel too concerned about it being. I mean, if you guys want to, we could talk about doing a quicker, if there's some way we could do a quicker rotation, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Okay. And then with this system, it still allows us to tell our customers that every other Friday there will be a percentage change, right? Or whatever day we set it on.
Whatever day you set it on, yeah. Now I don't think it's going to strictly be every other at this point. If you did the 220s, 240s, and then a 60, let's see, well, here, let me just copy this down a little bit where we can see a little bit longer visual. I think there might be
So every third Friday more.
So it's going to be once we're fully in the swing of things, then let's say we're down here. So we've priced with red, blue, purple. So we have all 4 colors on the floor. You're now pricing with yellow. Then you'll do 60%, 40 and 20, 2 weeks later. So like 2 weeks late. So we're here. So let's say we're looking here, right? 2 weeks after that, your blue's going to hit 60, purple hit 40, yellow hit 20. So yeah, that's 2 weeks. Then the very next week, your blue goes back to full, but you wouldn't have to tell your customers that necessarily. But red is at 20, purple moves to 60, yellow moves to 40. Yeah, so it still ends up being every 2 weeks. It looks like the discount changes from like 20 to 40, 40 to 60. But then at 60, and you wouldn't have, I don't think you wouldn't have to change anything for your customers as far as communication, I don't think. But at 60 is going to remain discounted for only 1 week, and then you'll start pricing with it again.
Okay.
But you wouldn't necessarily have to tell them that,
Yeah.
Otherwise signage. But you would need to update your signage more like weekly, because that 60% is only going to run for 1 week. So the next week you'd have to remove blue from your discount sign.
Okay.
So this is another way to think about it. Essentially, you're on a 8-week cycle, right? Week 1, you price with red. Yellow's at full, purple's at 20, blue's at 40. Week 2, you price with red. Yellow's still at 20. Purple has moved to 40. Blue's now at 60. Week 3, you price with blue. Red's still full, yellow's still 20, purple's still 40, right? And you just kind of keep working your way through. Once you hit the end, and you just go back.
So at the start of week 3, we need to be walking our sales floor, since we're switching to blue, either getting rid of stuff, or if there's anything blue left, it's automatically going to go back to full price at that point.
Correct. It'll audit if you ring up a blue ticket on week 3, it's going to ring up at full price. So typically you would walk your store like not necessarily beginning of week 3, but end of week 2. So like, end of Saturday, you walk the floor and anything blue, you pull off. Some stores reprice. I don't actually know how common it is to reprice. I think it's more common to just get rid of it. If you did reprice it, you should probably, let's say it was originally $100 and now it's 60% off for a week. So now it's been $40 for a week. So if you repriced it, it'd probably be pricing it at like 40 or below. I don't honestly know how many stores reprice, but that doesn't come up as part of the conversation as often as maybe just you purge it.
Yeah. And we all have like avenues of either nonprofits and we're used to not getting rid of some things. So that makes sense.
Okay, so under point of sale and inventory. All right. Any questions?
We are running a sale day where we're going to take an additional 15% off of everything, wherever it is in the cycle. Is there a way that we could just build a coupon that just takes the total amount and takes 15% off of that? Or do we have to go in and edit the percentages for that one day?
I'm glad you brought this up. So almost never do you need to go back and modify these rules. Like once it's set, it should really be set unless you change your routine discount strategy. If you do that, then these only change. Otherwise, you can leave these for like years. Like you don't typically touch them. Any discounts you run on top of this that are like 1-day sales, category sales, holiday sales, stuff like that, you just come into manage coupons and discounts and build a discount for that situation. And then if you're ever curious, like feel free to send our support team like, hey, can this type of discount be built or the other one? You know, they're happy to like point you in the right direction or say yes or no if that's possible before you print materials in the future too. So don't hesitate to reach out to them.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I will plan to send over copy of that spreadsheet and some video once it's done rendered and worked on it a little bit. And then, yeah, plan to send that stuff over.
Thank you.